Small ideas can be big. You know, the instant thought on hearing this phrase is of a company that started from a garage and turned into a unicorn, but can just that be classified as big? What is the benchmark for big? When is an idea big enough to be called so? Safe to say, the idea of big is subjective and contextual. Let me present a case study. I introduce to you Myra. Myra is a shy, reserved kid, an ambivert, if you will, who likes the limelight while simultaneously hating and fearing it and goes red when she has to raise a point in class. Because of her disposition, she's rendered somewhat armorless in a notion of sharks who are bold enough to take risks and put themselves out there. Myra fears being wrong. She has a self-imposed compulsion to do something right 100%, and if she doesn't see that happening, she'll drop it, if she can. Myra moved 8 schools throughout her school life, so she was always the new girl who was subject to judgment from the groups in class. One wrong step, and she was afraid the entire class would erupt into laughter. She had to be perfect. Never give anyone a reason to mock her. She grew up and started college. College, as everyone said, was the time to make mistakes and blunders and, most importantly, learn from them, accumulate experiences. Mistakes? Blunders? You see how this was an instant no-go for her. But Myra was determined to put herself out there because, unlike school, everyone would be new. She was also looking forward to finding a community for her artistic side. She discovered there were spaces for singers, actors, writers, photographers, but none for visual artists. They only seemed to pop up when some props needed to be designed. So Myra, aka I, decided to change that. So here's a confession. The only motivation I had to do this was to prove to myself that I could do something, so I collaborated with a batchmate and started Cathartic, the Arts and Expressions Club in my university. A space for visual artists driven by 3 objectives: to express, de-stress, and learn. Before getting into this, let me give you a little more background. Art has been a part of my life since I was a little kid. Drawing, coloring, painting, you name it, and I did it. In 2018, I started making mandalas. I enjoyed the process. Perfectionism creeped in there as well. But anyway, from that point onwards, I think I took art a lot more seriously. I started exploring with acrylics, gouache, and oils, and attended workshops, and painting just became my thing. It was how I introduced myself. Hi, I'm Aakanksha, and I paint. Heading Cathartic has been quite an interesting journey. We host art sessions where artists can come and unwind as they let their thoughts flow in color. We organize open mics and workshops for different forms of art. Every participant that has come in has left a little less stressed, fulfilling one of our prime objectives. I've held a few responsibilities in school before, but this is my first long-term experience in leadership, managing a team, delegating work, and planning events. I've made mistakes, both major and minor, and whenever they happened, I felt my negative self-talk gushing in like a flood because I couldn't carry things out perfectly. And I've thought about this word, perfect. What does it mean to be perfect? The definition of this word has been subject to change over the years. It meant having the perfect grade. It meant being the perfect friend. It meant being perfect at art, the perfect stroke. And I kept beating myself up when I couldn't excel in these roles. But here's the thing, and you know this, nobody is perfect. Not our friends, not our parents, certainly not us, maybe dogs, but that's about it. Sometime back in November, I had an epiphany. For the first time, I tried something, and it's been working out. So was there anything to be so terrified of? I realized that I don't have to enter a room knowing everything. I don't have to be a social butterfly, and I don't have to be the perfect artist either. I love art, so I started with something related to that. Co-founding a club was well out of my comfort zone, but still in it because of art. I'm not saying I'll settle for that. I mean, I'm standing here on this big stage right now, aren't I? What I'm saying is, it took a small step to even look as far as having a team for the club to work for the goal that we set out with. For me to lead, which always felt so daunting, and for me to be here. I grew. I'm growing. And it's amazing. Now, I want to talk about you. I'm going to display a few questions on the screen here, and I want you to answer them in your head. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 7, ranging from disagree to agree. It makes me uneasy to see an error in my work. It is very important that I am perfect in everything I attempt. The people who matter to me should not let me down. When I ask someone to do something, I expect it to be done flawlessly. Success means I must work even harder to please others. The better I do, the better I'm expected to do. These are a few questions from the multidimensional perfectionism scale developed by psychologists Hewitt and Flett. Your answers don't give any conclusive results because these aren't all the questions, but I wanted you all to reflect a bit. According to these guys, there are 3 kinds of perfectionists: self-oriented, other-oriented, and socially prescribed. Self-oriented perfectionists are those who place unrealistically high expectations on themselves and think no amount of accomplishments are enough. Other-oriented perfectionists expect people around them to behave precisely as they would want them to and make unrealistic assumptions about them. Lastly, socially prescribed perfectionists tend to obsess over what others think of them and are constantly worried that they aren't matching their expectations. I think the key words that emerge here are unrealistic and expectations, which should tell you everything you need to know. Research has proven that perfectionism often has more cons than pros and has been linked with manifestation of anxiety and depression. It also, naturally, acts as a deterrent to achieving goals. So, how do we practice kindness towards ourselves and better ourselves? One tip I read a while back was to apply the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle. The principle states that 80% of the outcome is a result of 20% of all input. For example, Cathartic organized a workshop 3 weeks ago, and we were informed at the 11th hour that the venue we had booked was no longer available. We found another venue, but it lacked natural lighting. That did not matter much though, because 20% of the input was finding a facilitator for the workshop, which accounted for 80% of the outcome, because without her, we wouldn't have had an event to plan in the first place. Everything else, like the venue, promotions, procuring materials, came later. So what emerges here is prioritizing and assessing what takes precedence over the other. I think I may be sugarcoating this though. I had my fair share of spiraling the night before, but it wasn't as bad as it would have been if I hadn't said these words to calm myself down. Journal your thoughts. It might sound tacky, but it really does work most of the time. Sometimes you just need to talk to someone. Write down all your thoughts and then come back to it after a while. You're more likely to realize that you exaggerated the negative quotient of the situation and that it probably wasn't as bad as you made it sound in writing. I also don't mean to say, hey, gaslight yourself, but to assess the situation calmly and not when you're fueled with emotions. Don't take the pressure of having the best of everybody in you. I tried to do that for a long time, but those traits did not come naturally to me. And after a while, I just got exhausted. I'm not the most social person, but I needed someone with me to spread the word about the art club. My batchmate, now a good friend, and I kind of complement each other. I do more of the logistical work, and she does more of the promotional work. So try to find people who complement your skills, because then you wouldn't have to try to be perfect in every aspect. Find people who support you, respect you, and motivate you. Everybody needs the support at some point, so try to look for meaningful friendships and of letting go of the ones that give you stress. Which brings me to my next point. Yeah, so a school teacher of mine used to write the name of his subject on the board like this. I always found it rather peculiar that he wrote PHY in capitals and the rest in running hand. One day, someone in class asked him about it, and he said something on the lines of, physics as a subject can be hard at first, but as you practice it, you're able to do it with more ease, and then it's not so daunting anymore. Just like when you start writing, the letters are disjointed and it takes time to write them. But as you practice, you're able to write in cursive, and then the whole process just becomes easier. Kind of like life. And that is something that has stuck with me all this while. Life is going to throw so many challenges at you, and you are going to feel dejected, frustrated, and low, but you're also going to feel happiness like you've never felt before, excitement and joy. Things are hard at first, but you practice and you adapt. It's inherent in all of us to adapt. So let's try to ensure in the midst of all the chaos, we don't maladapt. Don't let the demeaning voice in your head break you down to feeling worthless. Like Boyle said, you're 24-karat gold. By now, I'm pretty sure you're wondering when I tie in the theme with everything I've just said. Well, here it is. I had a small voice in my head to let go of my fear, to try, which grew louder. And that has given me the opportunity to experience so much more than my previously small world had to offer me. And for me, this is big. This is my context. This is my small idea. To grow, albeit with a little fear, but not to let it inhibit me from becoming my self-actualized, authentic self. Only you've got your back. You're on your own, kid. Thank you.